Today we introduce Lieutenant Commander Harry Noe, whose career with the Royal Australian Navy spans just short of a very remarkable 47 years. For Harry, there was one deployment in particular which has largely defined his life and has been the central focus of his attention for the past 20 or so years. Here is Harry's story.
I guess I started becoming fully involved probably over 20 years ago, and there's been many approaches in different ways, shapes or forms to governments and ministers and medals and honours and awards and you name it. But we always get the same answer back, you're not entitled because, and basically the because is we don't reckon you were close enough to the action to warrant any recognition or any compensation. What it got down to at the end of the day, and I think where we made the most progress was it was the atmospheric detonations, and that's we wanted to. Well, they're the worst ones of the lot. They're detonating the damn things in the air, and the stuff's going everywhere, and that was part of our protest, was to make sure that didn't happen anymore. And from that point forward, when we come back home again, that was pretty much the case. They never did another atmospheric test. But that's never been recognised by our government, or it may have well been recognised by the New Zealand government, but they don't seem to see that as being something that we actually achieved.
So in relation to that, how would the ship going through those waters affect people on HMAS Supply and the New Zealand ships?
Well, the water, there was a couple of things. We had vegetables which were stored on upper decks. We had situations where, that if there was radiation or contamination, they weren't covered or anything like that because, you'd be exposed to freshness, I suppose. Yeah, the other issue was that supply, like most warships, they draw their fresh water from the ocean, and they put it through a desalination process, and that's the water that you cook and you eat and you drink and you bathe in. So that's how we do it. The desalination process was pretty good, but it didn't get rid of radiation. It might have got rid of the salt and the other contaminants along those lines, but they weren't made to get rid of radiation. So we had no idea what we were exposed to, other than, what we were sucking out of the ocean and what we were drinking and what we were eating. But we weren't really ever tested in any way, shape or form, you look all right, you're healthy, off you go. So there was no way of knowing whether anyone was contaminated in any way, shape or form. I often get phone calls from guys that I still know or still in touch with on the ship, and I get either the daughters or the sons of people that were on there asking me about what's happening in this space, and that they've got related issues and problems that relate to atomic or nuclear type diseases and things that they got, and asking me, do I know or who they can get in contact with.
Did the Australian government, Department of Veterans Affairs or Department of Defence, provide any recognition?
No, there was no recognition. There was nothing. It was, and I think it all stemmed to what we were talking about earlier on, where the ship wasn't recognised as operating in a hazardous or an operational area. It was just another, everyday thing that you do in the Navy on HMAS Supply. That was how they recognised it. they don't see it as being, you know, hazardous operations or anything like that. It's just, you know, well, it's what you're paid to do, guys. Get out there and do it.